Om Tvameva Mata Cha Pita Tvameva Tvameva Bandhuscha Saka Tvameva Tvameva Vidya Dravinam Tvameva Tvameva Sarvam Mama Deva Deva Shri Dakshinamurti Sudeshikendram Dvaipayanam Sutrakratam Munindram Sri Shankaram Bhashyakritam Yatindram Madheshikanchapi Namami Vityai Om Namo Brahmadibhyo Brahma Vidya Sampradaya Kartribhyo Vamsarishibhyo Mahbhyo Namo Gurubhyah Sarvopaplavarahita Prajnana Ganaha Pratyagarto Brahmaivahamasmi Om Parthaya Pratibodhitam Bhagavata Narayanena Swayam Vyasena Gratitam Purana Munina Madhye Mahabharatam Advaitamritavarshiniim Bhagavatim Ashtadashadhyayiniim Ambatvamanusandadhami Bhagavad Gite Bhavatveshiniim Namostute Vyasavishala Buddhe Ullaravinda Yatapatra Netra Yena Tvaya Bharata Taila Purnaha Prajvalito Jnanamaya Pradipaha Prapanna Parijataya Totra Vetraika Panaye Jnanamudraya Krishnaya Gītāmritaduhe Namaha Sarvopanishado Gavo Dugdha Gopalanandanaha Partho Vatsa Sudhir Bhokta Dugdam Gītāmritam Mahat Vasude Vasutam Devam Kamsa Chanura Mardanam Devaki Paramanandam Krishnam Vande Jagadgurum Bhishma Drona Tata Jayadrata Jala Gandhara Nilotpala Shalyagrahavathi Kripena Vahani Karnena Velakula Ashwattama Vikarna Ghora Makara Duryodhanavartini Sotirna Kalupandavai Rananadi Kaivartakah Keshavaha Parasharya Vachassa Roja Mamalam Geetartha Gandotkatam Nanakhyanaka Kesaram Harikata Sambodhana Bodhitam Loke Sajjana Shatpadairaharaha Pepiyamanam Muda Bhuyad Bharata Pankajam Kalimala Pragvamsina Shreyase Mukam Karoti Vachalam Pangum Langayate Girim Yatkrupatamaham Vande Paramananda Madhavam Yam Brahma Varunendra Rudra Marutah Stunvanti Divyaistavaihi Vedais Sangapadakramopanishadaihi Gayanti Yam Samagaha Dhyanavastita Tadgatena Manasa Pashyanti Yam Yoginaha Yasyantam na Vidussura Suraganaha Devaya Tasmai Namaha Om Krishnaya Paramatmane Namaha. Pranams everyone. So we are in the second chapter. We are doing second chapter. We had just finished Sloka number 29. Sloka number 29. Sri Bhagavan Uvacha Ascharyavat Pashyati Kashchidenam Ascharyavat Vadati Tataiva Chanyah Ascharyavaschainyamanyah Shrunoti Shrutvaapyenam Vedana Chaiva Kaschit. So Bhagavan had said that this entire thing about Atma-Jnana is a wonder. Atma-Jnana is a wonder, Jnani is a wonder, Guru is a wonder, teaching is a wonder, student is a wonder, learning is a wonder. And the takeaway for us from this is basically we should not just listen to Bhagavad Gita once. That if we just listen to once, that is not enough, never enough. Gita or any of the Upanishads, and we should not start trying to learn Upanishads now until we finish Gita. Gita or Upanishads is not like other subjects. It is not a subject that can be kept within the intellect. It is not that I learn a formula, keep it in my memory, and whenever somebody is asking me, I have to give it out. It is not that kind of a subject. The subject is such that I have to internalize it. And for me to be able to internalize it, I need to have the qualifications. And for qualifications, there are sadhana and shravanam. Listening is an important sadhana. Repeated listening is shravanam, and when we do repeated listening, it builds our qualifications automatically. And not only that, as I said, every time we listen to Gita, we will get to learn something new, which we would not have been able to appreciate or understand the previous time that we had listened. So as our qualifications improve, the understanding improves as well. So listening to Bhagavad Gita or listening to Upanishads or listening to our Shastras is not about ticking the box. It's not about, okay, I have listened to this once, so that's enough. It has to be repeated. So this is the takeaway from this sloka. Now we'll go to sloka number 30. Dehi nityam avadhyoyam dehe sarvasya bharata tasmat sarvani bhutani natvam shochitum arhasi. Dehi nityam avadhyoyam dehe sarvasya bharata tasmat sarvani bhutani natvam shochitum arhasi. So here Bhagavan is concluding this Atma-Anatma vichara. In this sloka he is concluding it. Remember, he had already concluded the Atma-Anatma vichara in sloka 25 itself. Atma vichara he concluded in sloka 25 itself. 12 to 25 is where he had given the Atma Lakshana. Then what did he do? Because in the Atma Lakshana he said Atma is indestructible. Atma is non-destructible, Atma is eternal, and therefore Arjuna, you should not grieve. That was the argument that Bhagavan had put forth. That's the subject he took up. Then afterwards he took up the concept of death. And then he explained how death is inevitable. And then he gave the glory of Atma-jnana, which is in the last sloka, 30th. Now what he has done, he will now conclude this Atma-jnana topic here, and from the next sloka onwards he will pick up another line of argument. So basically Bhagavan is compassionate. He wants Arjuna's sorrow to be removed, and for that he is willing to put in all possible reasons or causes that Arjuna might have, and he wants to explain every one of them. So what was cause for Arjuna's sorrow? It is Bhishma or Drona's. So Bhagavan is asking him, we can think it this manner. Bhagavan is asking Arjuna, is your sorrow because of Bhishma's or Drona's Atma that will die, or Anātma? From an Atma standpoint, are you unhappy or sorrowful, or from Anātma standpoint? And then Bhagavan had already explained, there is no need to feel sorrow from an Atma standpoint, because Atma does not get destroyed. And then he also brought in from the Anātma standpoint, he said there is no reason to feel sorrow from Anātma standpoint, because the Anātma is subject to change. And the body will die one day. And therefore it has to be accepted. So Bhishma and Drona's death are inevitable. So there is no need for you to feel sorrowful about their death, about their body's death. The lesson is that the body is a mortal. We are all mortals. And the body is subject to old age. The body is subject to disease. The body is subject to death. As human beings, we have some bit of power over these things. In the sense, we can try to keep ourselves healthy as much as possible, but having said that, there will be a time when old age becomes inevitable. We can put on a makeup and show ourselves as young, but the body parts will actually remind us that we are not young anymore. So old age is inevitable. Disease is inevitable. And these days, disease does not necessarily come only in the old age also. And even if we are able to avoid these two, by keeping our body super healthy and our prarabdha is so nice, so good, that our body does not have any problems and we are able to maintain our body, the death is inevitable. Once we are born here, we should be ready to accept the fact that death is inevitable. And the most unfortunate thing about it is we don't know when the death is going to be, when we are going to die. You know, when Parikshit, Maharaja Parikshit, he got this shapa, basically he got this bane saying that within 7 days he would die. People thought, or at least some people thought, that Parikshit would be sad now because he has got only 7 days to live. But Parikshit said, in Bhagavad Purana, he say, I am really happy. Because I am sure that for the next 7 days I will live. That is guaranteed. For all other people, since the time of death is not predicted, you don't know. It can be any moment. Whereas for me, I am very sure that I have got now these 7 days for me. And what is for us? For us, we have to be ready to welcome death. This mental preparation, this acceptance of this physical mortality, the physical mortality is very important. So Bhagavan is saying here, Arjuna, you do not feel sad about, there is no need for you to feel sorrow about from an Atma standpoint or from Anātma standpoint. Now in this Sloka, what is he going to say? We'll see. Dehi nityam avadhyoyam dehe sarvasya bharata tasmat sarvani bhutani natvam shochitum arhasi. Bharata means, O Arjuna, I am Dehi. Dehi nityam avadhyo I am. So from there we say I am Dehi. I am Dehi means this Dehi. This Dehi means this Atma. Dehi means Atma. Deha means body. Dehi means Atma. Or the Atma which has, Dehi means the one which has body, which is the Atma. I am Dehi nityam. Nityam means is ever. Nityam. Avadhyaya. Avadhya means indestructible. He says, O Arjuna, this Atma is ever indestructible. Avadhya. At no time it can be destroyed. Avadhya. Vadhyaḥ, we know. Vadhyaḥ means which can be destroyed. That is how we get this word vadam. Sura samhara vadam. Vadam means destroyed. Avadhya means cannot be destroyed, cannot be killed. So this Atma cannot be destroyed. The Atma is ever indestructible. And where does it resides? He says, Sarvasya dehe, in all bodies. This Atma is ever indestructible and it resides present in every body, in all bodies. What we have to add here is, the bodies are destructible. Bodies are, in spite of the bodies being destructible. So even if all the bodies are destroyed, the Atma is indestructible. Bodies we have to add for dehe vadhyamane api. Even if the bodies are destructible, the Atma is indestructible. Now this sarvasya dehe can also be interpreted differently. We say all bodies. Or we can say present in every body. The body, the sarvasya dehe is mortal. All the bodies are mortal. So the Atma present in every body is immortal and is ever destructible. So Bhagavan basically says, comes back. So Arjuna, even if you think that Atma is destructible, it is destroyed. That's how we actually put forth the argument. Even if the Atma is indestructible or it can be destroyed, there is no need for you to feel unhappy about. Now he is confirming that Atma is indestructible. Tasmat sarvani bhutani natvam shochitum arhasi. Tasmat, therefore, tvam, natvam. Tvam means you. Arhasi na shochitum. You should not grieve. You should not grieve. So you should not grieve means for whom you should not grieve. Is it only for some people you should not grieve? And of course this is for not just for Arjuna, it's for all of us. So is it that you should only grieve for some people? Bhagavan says, Sarvani Bhutani. For the sake of any being, you should not grieve. That's what Bhagavan says to Arjuna. O Arjuna, this Atma present in every body is ever indestructible. Therefore, you should not grieve for the sake of any being. Our problem is what? We are ready to accept mortality. But as long as it is taking place somewhere else. But what we have to do is, what we really do is to extend this law of mortality, that law to everyone. Not just to people who are far away or people who are in the past, but also to people who are close to me. We should not grieve over any living being, over the death of any living being. That's what Bhagavan says. Arjuna, therefore, do not grieve over Bhishma and Arjuna. The thing is, we have this feeling that if we don't grieve, so there is something wrong in us. As in, people might mistake us and all those things. Actually, it's not the case. See, when old age sets in or disease sets in for people whom we love, our parents or our elders, whoever, our duty is to help the person. Help the person to be happy, to be comfortable. Make that person survive as long as possible, as healthy as possible. And in spite of all the efforts, when the death comes, we are supposed to accept it. It's a fact of life. Therefore, do not grieve. Because grief is not going to change the fact. So this is the lesson that Bhagavan wants to give. So here, Atma-Anatma vichara ends with this sloka. Actually, Atma vichara ended in sloka 25 itself. Then Anātma vichara, Bhagavan concluded in sloka 28. And then in sloka 29, basically Atma's glory was given by Bhagavan. And here in sloka 30, Bhagavan is concluding the whole section. Now Bhagavan is going to pick up another dimension. He is going to put forth another way of telling Arjuna why he should not grieve. Basically, Bhagavan is trying with lot of patience. He is being very compassionate towards Arjuna. He is been trying to remove Arjuna's grief using various methods. So the next one we will see, sloka number 31. Swadharmamapi cha vekshya navikampitum dharmyadi yuddhat shreyonyat kshatriyasya na vidyate. Swadharmamapi cha vekshya navikampitum dharmyadi yuddhat shreyonyat kshatriyasya na vidyate. So here from sloka 31 to 34, Bhagavan is going to talk in terms of, earlier he had been talking about Atma-Anatma drishti. Now he is going to talk about from dharma adharma drishti, from dharma and adharma standpoint. So basically Bhagavan is going to establish that there is no need for you to feel sad about this death from dharma adharma standpoint also. So how Bhagavan is actually expecting a doubt from Arjuna. Arjuna could say, hey Bhagavan, I understand Atma is eternal, so I won't feel sad that it might get destroyed. It is indestructible, I understand. I also understand Anātma is impermanent. Therefore, I won't feel sad. But by killing the Anātma, by killing the body, I am going to incur papa. So why should I get this papa by doing this adharma? Because by killing Bhishma and Drona, I am going to do adharma. And therefore, I am feeling bad about it. That could be Arjuna's question or Arjuna's point. Arjuna could say, Bhishma and Drona, Anātma could die, right? Anātma will die one day. But let them die on their own. Why should I be the cause? Why should I destroy that? Let it die when it has to die. Why are you asking me to do adharma? Because if I do adharma, I get papa, and because of papa, I might get naraka. I will get naraka. I will go to hell. So be it Atma or Anātma, why should I kill it? And also he could say, also bring in another argument also, say, killing my, grandfather, killing my guru, killing all my relatives, is all for the sake of what? For the sake of kingdom? Why should I do this adharma? And this is the argument that many people who have not understood Bhagavad Gita or understood Mahabharata or try to see it from the prism, their own prism, have always found fault. That Bhagavan is asking, Bhagavan is asking Arjuna to do a sin by asking him to kill. Therefore, it's important that we understand all these slokas from a shastric standpoint. And we understand it properly from the parampara, from the sampradaya gurus. Suppose if Arjuna thinks like this, then Bhagavan is here explaining here, the single sentence answer for that question or that point of view would be, hey Arjuna, Kshatriya dharma is to do dharma yuddha. And that is the answer. And therefore Bhagavan says, Bhagavan explains thus and then says, you don't need to grieve on that basis also. So Bhagavan is basically explaining, Arjuna did not ask this question, but Bhagavan is explaining this to Arjuna. He is coming down to, earlier it was philosophical view or philosophical level, he gave the answer. Now he is coming to the ethical or the moral level. In other words, dharmika drishti. He is going to provide the dharmika drishti about this war. Now, before we get into this sloka, we'll do a small vichara. There is a term called swadharma. Shastras call our duties as swadharma. Swadharma is the duties that are prescribed to an individual. This is not to be confused with the samanya dharma. There is also this common set of duties called samanya dharma. Samanya dharma is common to all people at all times, at all places. Samanya dharma will not change from person to person, place to place or time to time. Samanya dharma means what? Universal dharma. So this universal dharma does not depend on a person's varna. Varna meaning whether he is a Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya, Shudra. It does not depend on that. It does not depend on the gender, whether it is male or female. It does not depend on the ashrama, whether he is a brahmacharya ashrama, grahastha ashrama, vanaprastha ashrama or sannyasa ashrama. It does not matter. Samanya dharma are general rules for everyone. We have already explained what is Samanya dharma. Samanya dharma, we have already explained what you don't want to do unto, what you don't want others to do unto you, you don't do it to others. Or what you want others to do for me, do it to others. But if we want to have a real examples or real commandments as what are the Samanya dharma, then this Ashtanga Yoga, we have this Yama and Niyama. The first two steps of the Ashtanga Yoga. Those two steps give a fair indication of Samanya Dharma. In Yama we have 5 and in Niyama we have 5. 5 values Yama, 5 values Niyama. Ahimsa, Satyam, Asteyam, Brahmacharyam and Aparigraham we have. And then we have Saucham, Santosham, Tapaha, Swadhyaya and Ishvara Pranidhana. So we have 10. I'll just give quick one word or one sentence description of each of these values. Ahimsa. Ahimsa is Samanya Dharma. Ahimsa is not what? Not hurting others. Not hurting others at all 3 levels. Kaika, Vachika, Manasa. Either through body, through speech or through words. Through words or through mind. Then you have Satyam. Satyam, speaking truth. And remember all these values we had actually discussed that in detail in 13th and 16th chapter earlier. Satyam, speaking truth. What is truth? When can a lie be considered as truth? All these things we discussed in chapter 13 and 16 itself. So Satyam is also another universal dharma, speaking truth. Then Asteyam. Asteyam means not stealing anybody else's property, not stealing from anyone else. Then Brahmacharyam. Brahmacharyam is chastity. That is also universal dharma. Then Aparigraha. Aparigraha means simplicity. By simplicity, what we mean is wealth should be equally distributed. I should not be responsible for that imbalance. Whenever I have something more, I should be willing to share it with others who does not have it. So that is Aparigraham. Then Saucham. Saucham means cleanliness, hygiene. Again, Saucham has got 2 things. Bahya Saucham, Antara Saucham. Bahya Saucham means cleanliness of the things and whatever I use, the place that I live, the city that I live, the house, the estate that I am in. I should not be responsible for making it unclean, or I should make sure that I clean it up. Whether it is my body, from body all the way outside. Body, dress, my things that I use, the place that I live, the room that I have, the house that I live, the city that I am, the country that I am in, all. Then Antara Saucham is basically my mind and intellect. Then Santosham. Santosham means contentment. Learning to be contented with what I have. In other words, freedom from jealousy. The biggest problem for us is that comparison. Our mind generally tends to compare. And comparison either brings in a superiority complex or an inferiority complex. Inferiority complex more or less manifests itself as jealousy. And from jealousy, all kinds of problems arise. From jealousy, hatred, all those things. Vengeance and himsa through the mind, all those things happen. And jealousy leads to competition. Competition leads to one being, or one can go to the level of even doing adharma. So a non-comparing mind is important. Santosham. Then tapaha. Tapaha means self-discipline. Self-discipline means, see, being indisciplined is the easiest thing. As people say, in one of the kan pona pokile kal pogalama, letting our mind wander the way it wants, letting our body behave the way it wants, that is indiscipline. Self-discipline is the fundamental duty of human being, and it has to begin from punctuality. Punctuality is a great virtue. So that is another or one of the examples of tapaha. Tapaha is also wherever our body faces some issues. Rather, for example, if we are unwell, or if we are in such a position that our prarabdha is such that we have to walk on that hot sun, under the hot sun on that day, or on that day if there is a power cut, and we have to be without fan or an air conditioner, then taking that to be a discipline, tapas, is an important virtue. We have discussed about this again. All these have been discussed again when we had 13th and 16th chapter. Then swadhyaya. Swadhyaya means scriptural study. Now, scriptural study is also samanya dharma. Everybody has to go through scriptural study, irrespective of varna, ashrama, or gender. Everybody has to study scriptures. And the scriptural teachers will have to study more than the other people. But scriptural study is important because scriptural study tells us how to lead a harmonious life. Then finally, Ishvara Pranidhana, surrendering to Ishvara. Say Prapatti, or we can say basically attributing everything to Ishvara. Everything, in the sense, whatever good I get is all as taken as whatever good or bad I get, I take it as a blessing from Ishvara. So this is Ishvara Pranidhana. So this Pancha Yama, Pancha Niyama is, we can say, as the Dasa Samanya Dharma. This is Samanya Dharma. Now, if we come to Swadharma, Swadharma or Visesha Dharma as we say, now that changes from person to person, it changes from place to place, and it changes from time to time. For example, for a person when he is brahmachari, that Visesha Dharma says he should not handle money. A brahmachari should not handle money. His swadharma is to study and do seva for guru and parents. That's all. But the same person when he enters grihastha ashrama, same person, he gets new duties. And he gets duty, or he or she gets a duty as a wife or a husband or as a parent, and then they have different set of duties. And the same person, when the person becomes old, then the person will have to let go of the duties as a parent and will have to take on vanaprastha ashrama. If they retain this feeling that I am still the parent and I need to control, then life will be difficult for everybody. So these duties, it changes depending on place to place. And the same, so on what basis it changes? It changes based on the varna, ashrama, gender, or whatever, Visesha Dharma. And what is varna? Varna we saw. Varna is brahmacharya, brahmana varna, kshatriya, vaishya, shudra varna. And ashrama means brahmacharya, grihastha, vanaprastha and sannyasi. So 4 varnas, 4 ashramas. Now, what happens when there is a conflict between samanya and vishesha dharma? When samanya dharma is in conflict with vishesha dharma, shastras say only the vishesha dharmas have to be followed. For example, no doubt, our Veda says ahimsa paramo dharma. Non-violence is the duty, samanya duty, common value to be followed by all. But at the same time, the same Dharma Shastras say that the same Dharma which says ahimsa is a samanya dharma, it comes up with exceptions. There are exceptions where when violence is allowed, not only it is allowed, it becomes the duty of a certain person to be violent at certain places. And it is the Vishesha Dharma. And Vishesha Dharma of who? The ruler. For what? For maintaining law and order. So for maintaining law and order, violence is accepted. Violence is allowed. So for a ruler, violence is allowed. Whereas for a Brahmana, Varna Brahmana, violence is not allowed. Or Ashrama Sannyasi, violence is not allowed. For them, their Vishesha Dharma is Ahimsa. A sannyasi cannot retaliate even if someone beats him. That is his dharma. Even if somebody beats him, he can only try to avoid or try to stop. He cannot beat back. He cannot show violence. What can he do? He can only go to the king. That is why in Ramayana, Vishwamitra went to Dasharatha and asked for Rama and Lakshmana to come with him to the forest to kill the demons. Vishwamitra has done enormous tapas. In fact, through his powers, Vishwamitra gave Rama and Lakshmana different types of astras to fight. Now, Vishwamitra could easily kill the demon in a minute through his powers of tapas. But he did not. Because it is not his duty to be, or it is I will be against his Vishesha Dharma to be violent. It is Kshatriya's duty to protect the Brahmanas. It is the Kshatriya's duty to protect the Brahmacharis. It is the Kshatriya's duty to protect the Sannyasis. So coming back to here, this place, here, a Kshatriya Dharma is to wage the war. Wage a righteous war. Because once we say wage a war, the question may come, isn't Duryodhana doing the same? The answer is no. Duryodhana is not, it is not done out of dharma. Dharma Yuddha means not for the sake of power or kingdom, but for restoring dharma. And therefore, in this war, ahimsa will have to be given up. And a Kshatriya has to take up Dharma Yuddha. That's his duty. Even in today, for example, we have this army. The army consists of soldiers. Now the soldiers, when they are in society, they are not supposed to be violent. They have to follow ahimsa. But when they go to the border, obviously, if there is an incursion or if there is a war, they have to kill the enemy for their sake of their kingdom, for restoring their dharma. That is their Vishesha Dharma. So, a Kshatriya, at the time of Dharma Yuddha, ahimsa has to be given up and he has to take up the Dharma Yuddha. He has to fight for Dharma. That's his duty. And everywhere, our Shastras are so good that they have already defined on where could be the problems and where there could be some exceptions also. Even with regards to truth, for example, Satyam, they give exception in certain cases. It's called as Apadharma. So we have Samanya Dharma, Vishesha Dharma and Apadharma. Apadharma is when in certain extreme cases. For example, take an example today, probably in Singapore, for example, there are lots of people who have completed their national service and they are going to their work, they are going to the regular office. Now what happens is, if there is a war, they could be pulled into fighting for the country. So at that point of time, they cannot say, my policy is to follow ahimsa, I cannot fight for this country. It is apadharma. It doesn't matter what your profession is, you will have to still fight for the country because this is an exception. So for every general rule, there is an exception also. And that's true even in today's life. Like even we pay tax, but the government itself gives certain exemptions where tax is exempted. So for some people, everything is exempted. And for senior citizens, that exemption level is high. So government permits the exemption. Similarly, traffic rules, there are exemptions or exceptions. If an ambulance comes, then there is an exception. Ambulance need not follow the traffic rules. Residents' vehicle, when they come, they need not worry about whether the traffic light is red or green or orange. All those other things are exceptions. So similarly, ahimsa is a samanya dharma, but there is also a vishesha dharma. In Sanskrit, what happens is a rule is called as utsargaha. Utsargaha means rule. Exception is called as apavadaha. Utsargaha, apavadaha. So every utsargaha has an apavada also. So similarly, Arjuna, the utsargaha is that you should not kill people, you should not harm anyone. That is the rule. But apavada is, rule is killing for the sake of maintaining law and order is allowed, is required. And there also, remember, they had not gone to war straight away. They had followed the 4 steps of dharma, which is sama, dana, beda, and only finally they went with the danda. They had tried to negotiate. They had willing to give up dana. Then they said, at least leave us alone. Let us not even fight. But Duryodhana was insistent that he wants to fight and close Pandavas once for all. So this war is inevitable. War had been made inevitable. And Dharma Yuddha is perfectly ethical. What is the meaning of Kshatriya? Kshatriya word itself means Shatat Adharmat Trayate iti Kshatriya. Shatat means Adharma. Shatat means Adharma. So Adharmat Trayate iti Kshatriya. Shatat actually means defect, but in this case we'll have to take it as Adharma. Shatat means broken or defective. So if things are broken in the society, the Kshatriya has to mend it or has to protect it. If it is Adharma at a social level, then Kshatriya means adharmat trayate. Trayate means protect, or rather to protect against adharma. So he has to restore dharma. And how does a Kshatriya protect the society from adharma? First is to try to convert the person from adharma to dharma. And if it is not ready for this, then eliminate the adharmic people. Therefore, either convert the adharmic person to dharmic ways, and if they are not willing, if they are not ready, then eliminate. Bhagavan will say, even in the 4th chapter, he will say, Paritranaya sadhunam vinashaya cha dushkritam dharma samsthapanarthaya sambhavami yuge yuge. There also he will say that I come to restore dharma, I will have to eliminate certain adharmic people. And the analogy here, how we can actually eliminate these adharmic people, the analogy that we can give is the amputation done by a doctor. The aim of a doctor is, suppose if a particular limb has got a problem, say because of sugar or whatever, there is a problem. Then what happens is the doctor tries to restore the limb back to its proper health. But if the change is not possible, if the doctor is not able to change that unhealthy limb to a healthy one, then because it is going to affect the whole body, the doctor will do an amputation. In the same way, the society, the Kshatriya's duty is to actually change the adharmic to dharmic. And if it is not possible, because they could actually influence the society even in a bigger manner, then to eliminate them is the answer. Now let us go into the sloka. Swadharmabhapi chavekshya navikampitu marhasi. Api cha means moreover. Swadharmam api cha. Api cha means moreover. Avekshya swadharmam. Avekshya swadharmam means swadharmam we know, we just saw. Avekshya, considering your own. Considering, avekshya means considering. Avekshya swadharmam, considering your own duty also. So, moreover, even on the basis of your Vishesha Dharma, that is what Bhagavan is saying. Moreover, even on the basis of your Vishesha Dharma. So, what is this apicha moreover mean? Moreover means, Arjuna, you need not grieve from the Atma standpoint of Atma, standpoint of Anātma. I have already established that. Now, moreover, even if you are not convinced by that, that's how it means. Moreover, considering from your own duty also, arhasi na, arhasi, navikampitu arhasi, na arhasi. You should not, vikampitum, vikampitum. Vikampitu means waver, hesitate, or fear. Vikampitum, you should not waver. Do not hesitate, do not fear that you might incur papa. That is what he is saying. So, moreover, considering your own duty also, you should not waver. And Bhagavan gives the reason in the second line. Why you should not waver? Dharmyadi yuddhat shreyonyat. Dharmyadi. He means because. Because Dharmyat yuddhat. Dharmyat yuddhat means a righteous war. This is a dharma yuddha, righteous war. Arjuna, this is no ordinary war. It is a dharma yuddha. Fighting a war is not the swadharma of a Kshatriya. Only a righteous war, only a dharma yuddha is swadharma of Kshatriya. So, dharma yuddhat. Dharmyat yuddhat. Shreyonyat. Anyat Shreyonyat. Na Anyat. And then there is a Na Vidyate. Kshatriyasya Na Vidyate. Anyat. Na Anyat Vidyate. Na Anyat Vidyate means nothing else is Shreya. Shreyaha Anyat Na Vidyate. Shreyaha means greater. Na Anyat Vidyate means nothing else is. So nothing else is greater. Nothing else is greater than what? Dharmyat Yuddhat. Nothing else is greater than a righteous war. For who? Kshatriyasya. Because for a Kshatriya, for a warrior, nothing else is greater than a righteous war. That is what Bhagavan is saying. There is nothing greater than a Dharma Yuddha. So moreover, considering your own duty also, you should not waver, because for a warrior, for a Kshatriya, nothing else is greater than a Dharma Yuddha. Dharmyam. Dharmyam means moral, righteous. There is nothing superior to a righteous war. For whom? Not for Brahmana, not for Vaishya, not for Shudra. A Brahmana cannot go and say, I am fighting a righteous war and therefore I am ready to kill. It is only for Kshatriya. There is no better opportunity. That's why even in Mahabharata, Drona will be criticized by the Pandavas. That your Swadharma is not to fight at all. You are a Brahmana by birth. You should not fight this war. And yet you have come to this war. Only for a Kshatriya, the Dharma Yuddha is Shreyaha, is superior. And Shreyaha means pure mind. Why Bhagavan is using Shreyaha here? Shreya means, as I said, pure mind. When we do our own duty, we will get a pure mind. We will get a clean mind. We will get Chitta Shuddhi. Everybody, when they do their own Swadharma properly, they will get purity of their mind. So for a Kshatriya, a Dharma Yuddha will result in his pure mind. As I said, this is only for Kshatriya. And this is only for, not for a Kshatriya who has taken sannyasa ashram. Suppose if there is a Kshatriya, born Kshatriya, but he has taken sannyasa, then he should not fight this war. That's how subtle this our dharma works. Suppose this person who is a sannyasi, suppose somebody comes and beats him, this sannyasi. If the sannyasi keeps quiet, he does not fight back. He may try to avoid, he may try to run away, all this is all possible, all this is all allowed. But if he does not fight back, he gets Chitta Shuddhi by not retaliating. But on seeing this injustice, a Kshatriya goes by. A Kshatriya goes and beats the person who hits the sannyasi, although he himself is not involved in this fight. A Kshatriya will get Chitta Shuddhi because he is doing his duty. So one person gets a Chitta Shuddhi for taking the beating and doing nothing. Another person gets Chitta Shuddhi for not taking the beating but for giving it back. So Dharma works in Sukshma. Dharma works in subtle manner. We have to understand that properly. This Dharma, more and more about this Dharma will be discussed in chapter 3. We will see more of this workings of Dharma there. So here, in this Sloka, Bhagavan says, Swadharmamapi chavekshya navikumpitum arhasi dharmyadi yuddhat shreyonyat kshatriyasya navidyate. Considering your own duty also, Arjuna, you should not waver, because for a Kshatriya, nothing else is greater than a righteous war. And Bhagavan is going to continue in the next Sloka, Sloka number 32. Yadrichaya chopapannam swargadvaram apavritam Sukina kshatriyah partha labante yuddhamidrisham yadrichaya chopapannam swargadvaramapavritam Sukina kshatriyah partha labante yuddhamidrisham. So Bhagavan says, after saying to Arjuna that, no need to feel Atma-Anatma from that standpoint, 31 last sloka, he started explaining that he need to feel grieved. That he need not feel grieved on the basis of dharma and adharma. Now Bhagavan says, not only that you should not grieve for fighting this war, on the other hand, you should take this opportunity as a great blessing. He says, you have to take this war as a great blessing for you. Yadrichaya chopapannam. So before that, Ashishji, you have put your hand up.
Guruji, just on the previous one, you highlighted that if a Kshatriya has taken sannyas and has become a sannyasi, the dharma now is not to indulge in violence.
Yeah.
But let's say actually he goes back to indulging in that violence to defend himself. Would that result in a pap incurring to him, or would that mean his sannyas gets broken and he's back to being Kshatriya?
Good question. I'll answer first the answer and then I'll give you a quick one example. So not example but another clarification. He will get papa. Okay? Because he has broken the vow of sannyasa. Because the first and foremost vow a sannyasi takes is, he clearly establishes that through me I will not be the cause of any himsa for any being in this society, in this universe. That's the vrata he takes once he becomes a sannyasi. The second thing you have to understand is, sannyasi in our culture is one-way street. If a person takes up sannyasa, he cannot come back to any other ashrama. Therefore, a person has to be really careful when he decides to take up sannyasa. If he takes up sannyasa, he has to be mentally prepared for it and be ready to live that life of sannyasa throughout his life. There is no way a sannyasi can come back to grihastha ashrama or any other ashrama. And therefore, if he breaks that, it becomes a papa also. So, I hope that answers.
Okay. Thanks.
Okay, I think this sloka will explain in the I'll explain in the next class because it might get turned off any time. But basically what Bhagavan says is, take this as an opportunity, Arjuna. It is a great blessing for you. Any other questions or comments, or we'll see in the next class. We'll see in the next class. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om.
Hari Om.